Hi there, we're live. Hi, my name is John Potok. Today's daily readings from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill on the chapter on persistence. Riches do not respond to wishes, they respond only to definite plans backed by definite desires through constant persistence. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. This is chapter 8, persistence. The sustained effort necessary to induce faith. The 8th step to riches. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. People who accumulate great fortunes are generally thought of as cold blooded and sometimes ruthless. Often they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower, which they mix with persistence and place back their desires to ensure the attainment of their objectives. Henry Ford was generally misunderstood to be ruthless and cold blooded. This misconception grew out of Ford's habit of following through on all his plans with persistence. The majority of people are ready to throw their aims away at the first um, disappointment or error and failure. A few carry on despite all opposition until they reach their goal. These few are the Fords, Carnegies, Rockefellers, and other outstanding achievers of the world. There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence. The carbon is what is the character of what character is to steal. If you wish to achieve a fortune, generally involves the application of all the 13 principles of this philosophy, and these philosophies and these principles must be applied with persistence. These principles must be understood. They must be applied with persistence by all who accumulate money. If you're following this book with the intention of applying the knowledge it conveys, your first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to take the 6 actions described in chapter 1. Unless you're one of the 2 out of every 100 persons who already have a definite goal at which you're aiming, a definite plan for its attainment, you may read those instructions, then pass on with your daily routine and never comply with those instructions. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Always remember that. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desires. Fortunes gravitate to individuals whose minds are being prepared to attract them, just as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. If you find you're weak in persistence, center your attention upon the instructions contained in the chapter of the power of the mastermind, the driving force. That is chapter 9. Surround yourself with a mastermind group, and through the cooperative efforts of the members of this group, you can develop persistence. You'll find additional instructions for the development of persistence in the chapters on autosuggestion and the subconscious mind. Chapter 3 and Chapter 11. Follow the instructions outlined in these chapters until your habit nature hands over a clear picture of the object you desire in your subconscious mind, which works continuously while you're awake and while you're asleep. Spasmodic or occasional efforts to apply the rules will be not valid to you. To get results, you must apply all the rules until their application becomes a fixed habit within you. In no other way can you develop the necessary money consciousness. The money consciousness must be created to order unless one is born with such a consciousness. Catch the full significance of the statements in the preceding paragraph, and you will understand the importance of persistence in the accumulation of a fortune. Without persistence, you'll be defeated even before you start, where with persistence, you will win. If you've ever experienced a nightmare, you'll realize the value of persistence. You're lying in bed half awake, with a feeling you're about to smother. You're unable to turn or move a muscle. You realize that you must begin to regain control of your muscles through persistent effort of willpower. You finally manage to move the fingers of one hand. By continuing to move your fingers, you control the muscles of one arm, and then you continue to lift it. You gain control of the other arm in the same manner, and you finally gain control of the muscles of one leg, and then extend it to the other leg. Then, with one supreme effort of will, you regain complete control of your muscular system and snap out of your nightmare. The trick has been turned step by step. Be persistent, no matter how slowly you may at first have to move. With persistence will come success. There is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this, and it'll hearten you in the beginning when the going may seem difficult and slow. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive at the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears that they have a spur hidden guide whose duties to test them through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, "Bravo! I know you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who cannot take it simply do not make the grade. There are exceptions to this rule. A few people know from experience the soundness of persistence. They are the ones who have not accepted defeat as being anything more than temporary. They are the ones whose desires are so persistently applied that defeat is finally changed into victory. One thing we all know: if one does not possess persistence, one does not achieve noteworthy success at any calling. The secret how to conquer Broadway is always and separately to attach to one word: persistence. The secret is told in the struggle of Fannie Hurst, whose persistence conquered the Great White Way. She came to New York in 1915 to convert writing into riches. The conversion did not come quickly, but it came. For 4 years, Mercer learned about the sideways of New York. She spent her days laboring and her nights hoping. When hope grew dim, she did not say, "All right, Broadway, you win." She said, "Very well, Broadway, you may whip some, but not me. I'm going to force you to give up." One publisher, the Saturday Evening Post, sent her 36 rejection slips before she broke the ice and got a story across. The average writer, like the average in other walks of life, would have given up the job when the first rejection slip came. She pounded the pavements for 4 years to deter the publishers no, because she was determined to win. Then came the payoff. The spell had been broken. The unseen guide had tested Fannie Hurst, and she could take it. From that time on, publishers beat a path to her door. Money came so fast she had hardly time enough to count it. Then the motion picture crowd discovered her. Money came not in small change, but in floods. The movie rights to her novel, Great Laughter, brought $100,000, set at the time to the highest price ever paid for a story before publication. Her royalties from the sale of the book increased her fortune further. Briefing now, you have a description of what persistence is capable of achieving. Fannie Hurst is no exception. Wherever men and women accumulate great riches, you may be sure they first acquire persistence. Broadway will give any beggar a cup of coffee and a sandwich, but it demands persistence of those who go after the big stakes. Verily, it pays to be persistent. The 8 factors of persistence: 1, definiteness of purpose; 2, desire; 3, self reliance; 4, definiteness of plans; 5, accurate knowledge; 6, cooperation; 7, willpower; and 8, habit. Persistence is the direct result of habit. So you want to make the characteristic cultivation of persistence a habit, a daily habit in your life. When Andrew Carnegie suggested that I devote 20 years to the organization of a philosophy of individual achievement, my first impulse of thought was fear of what people might say. The suggestion set up a goal for me far out of proportion than I had ever conceived. A quick flash in my mind began to create alibis and excuses, all of them traceable to the inherent fear of criticism. Something inside me said, "You cannot do it. The job is too big, requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you?" You know? How will you earn a living? No one has ever organized a philosophy of success. What right do you have to believe you can do it? Who are you to aim so high? Remember your humble birth? What do you know about philosophy? People think you're crazy, and they did. Why have some other people done this now? These and many other questions flashed into my mind and demanded attention. Lots of people ridiculing me. Later in life, after having analyzed thousands of people, I discovered that most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through definite plans of immediate action. Many people believe that material success is the result of favorable breaks. There's some element of truth in the belief, but people who depend entirely upon luck are nearly always disappointed because they overlook another important factor which must be present before one can be sure of success. It is the knowledge with which favorable breaks can be made to order. To many, that would have been the place to give up and quit, but Fields was persistent. He knew that if he carried on, he would get the breaks sooner or later, and he'd get them, but not by chance. Mary Dressler found herself down and out with her money gone, with no job when she was about 60. She too went after the breaks and got them. Her persistence brought an astonishing triumph, light in life long beyond the age when most men and women are done with ambition to achieve. Eddie Cantor lost his money in the 1929 stock market crash, but he still had his persistence and his courage. With these plus two prominent eyes, he exploited himself back into an income of $10,000 a week. Rarely, if one has persistence, one can get along without many other qualities. The only break anyone can afford to rely upon is a self-made one. These come through application of persistence, and the starting point is definiteness or purpose. Riches do not respond to wishes, they respond only to definite plans, backed by definite desires through constant persistence. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. Someone asked him, you know, what's the key to success? He said one word: constant perseverance. That's the key to success: constant perseverance. How to develop persistence? 4 steps. One, a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. Two, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. Three, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. And number four, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. These 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. The entire purpose of the 13 principles of the Think and Grow Rich philosophy is to enable one to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. Some will say, with all these blessings, King Edward should have had peace of mind, content, and joy of living. The truth is that back of all the privileges of the crown, all the money and the fame and power inherited by King Edward, there was an emptiness which could be only filled by love. His greatest desire was for love. Long before he met Wallace Simpson, he felt this great universal emotion tugging at the strings of his heart, beating upon the door of his soul and crying out for expression. King Edward's decision to give up the British crown for the privilege of going the remainder of his life with the woman of his choice was a decision that required courage. The decision also had a price. Who has the right to say the price was too great? No complaint from either church or the public, but this unusual man was built of sterner stuff. His love was deep and sincere. It represented the one thing which, above all else, he truly desired. Therefore, he took what he wanted and paid the price demanded. Most of the world today would applaud the Duke of Windsor and Wallace Simpson because of their persistence in searching until they found life's greatest reward. All of us can profit by following their example in our search for that which we demand of life. What mystical power gives the people of persistence the capacity to master difficulties? Does the quality of persistence set up in one's mind some form of spiritual, mental, or chemical activity which gives access to supernatural forces? Does infinite intelligence throw itself on the side of the person who still fights on after the battle has been lost, with the whole world on the opposing side? These and many other similar questions have arisen in my mind as I have observed individuals such as Henry Ford, who started from scratch and built an industrial empire of huge proportions with little else in the way of beginning but persistence, or Thomas A. Edison, who in less than 3 months of schooling became the world's leading inventor and converted persistence into the phonograph, the movie projector, and the incandescent light, to say nothing of 100 other useful inventions. I had the happy privilege of analyzing and studying at close range both Mr. Edison and Mr. Ford year by year over a long period of years. So I speak from first-hand knowledge when I say that I found no quality, save persistence, in either of them that would even remotely suggest a major source of their stupendous achievements. When one makes an impartial study of the prophets, philosophers, miracle workers, and religious leaders of the past, one is drawn to the inevitable conclusion that persistence, concentration of effort, and definiteness of purpose were the major sources of their achievements. And observe, if they have one outstanding trait in common, it is persistence. If you're keenly interested in studying the strange, powerful, gives potency to persistence, read a biography of Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad, especially the one by Asad Bey. This brief review of that book by Thomas Segru and the New York Herald Tribune will provide a preview of the rare treat in store for those who take the time to read the entire story of one of the most astounding examples of the power of persistence known to civilization. The Last Great Prophet, reviewed by Thomas Segru. Muhammad was a prophet, but he never performed a miracle. He was not a mystic. He had no formal schooling, and he did not begin his mission until he was 40. When he announced that he was the messenger of God, bringing word of the true religion, he was ridiculed and labeled a lunatic. He was banished from his native city in Mecca, and his followers were stripped of their early worldly goods and sent into the desert after him. When he had been preaching 10 years, he had nothing to show for it but banishment, poverty, and ridicule. Yet before another 10 years had passed, he was ruler of Mecca and the head of the New World religion, which was to sweep the Danube and the Pyrenees before exhausting the impetus he gave it. The impetus was threefold: the power of words, the efficiency of prayer, and man's kinship with God. His career never made sense. Muhammad was born to impoverished members of a leading family in Mecca, because Mecca, the crossroads of the world, home of the magic stone called the Kaaba, great city of trade and center of trade routes, was unsanitary, and his children were sent to be raised in the desert by Bedouins. Muhammad was this nurtured, drawing strength and health from the milk of nomad, precarious mothers. He tended sheep and soon hired out to a rich widow as a leader of her caravans. He traveled to all parts of the Eastern world, talked with many men of diverse beliefs, and observed the decline of Christianity into warring sects. When he was 28, Khadijah, the widow, looked upon him with favor and married him. For the next 12 years, Muhammad lived as a rich and respected and very shrewd trader. Then he took to wandering in the desert, and one day he returned with the first verse of the Quran and told Khadijah that the archangel Gabriel had appeared to him and said that he was to be the messenger of God. The Quran, the revealed word of God, was the closest thing to a miracle in Muhammad's life. He had not been a poet, he had no gift of words, yet the verses of the Quran, as he received them, recited them to the faithful, were better than any verses which the professional poets of the tribes could produce. This to the Arabs was a miracle. To them, the gift of words was the greatest gift. The poet was all powerful. In addition, the Quran said that all men were equal before God, and that the world should be in democratic state Islam. It was this political heresy plus Muhammad's desire to destroy all the 360 idols in the courtyard of the Kaaba, which brought about his banishment. The idols brought the desert tribes to Mecca, and that meant trade. So the businessmen in Mecca, the capitalists of which he had been one, set upon Muhammad. Then he retreated to the desert and demanded sovereignty over the world. The rise of Islam began. Out of the desert came a flame which would not be extinguished, a democratic army fighting in a unit, preparing to die without wincing. Muhammad invited the Jews and Christians to join him, for he was not building a new religion. He was calling on all who believed in one God to join in a single faith. If the Jews and Christians had accepted his invitation, Islam would have conquered the world. They didn't. They would not even accept Muhammad's innovation of humane warfare. When the armies of the Prophet entered Jerusalem, not a single person was killed because of his faith. When the Crusaders entered the city centuries later, not a Muslim man, woman, or child was spared. But the Christians did accept one Muslim idea, the place of learning, the university. Religious visionaries such as Muhammad, business leaders such as Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie, and political leaders such as Samuel Adams, entertainers such as Fanny Hurst, Kate Smith, and W.C. Fields, cosmopolites such as Wallace Simpson and the Duke of Windsor. No matter what their walk of life, individuals such as these in all eras of human history have demonstrated the tremendous power of the eight step to riches: persistence, sustained effort in the face of all odds and all adversity. Persistence creates faith, and faith is the only known antidote for failure. It is the starting point of all accumulation of riches, and is the only agency through which one can tap the force of infinite intelligence. Great power can be accumulated through no other principle than that of the mastermind. Chapter 9: The Power of the Mastermind. The driving force is the ninth step to riches. Persistence creates faith. From faith comes power, and power is essential for success in the accumulation of money. Riches do not respond to wishes, they respond only to definite plans backed by definite desires through constant persistence, constant perseverance.